so the TLDR is you want to step out of the level until you can no longer see the swap prompt, then barely step back in, then you want to step out and the frame after swap into the clone. And now both clones have the infinite breakout. So how does this work? Well, originally I was going to do a bunch of reverse engineering and show you these values in Cheat Engine, but that turned out complicated and I basically understand it anyway. So the first thing you want to talk about is how swapping works. So every body or every pawn in Unreal parlance has a controller. This pawn's controller is the most basic dumb AI controller possible, it just stands there doing nothing. The NPCs, for example, have a slightly smarter one, which pathfinds them between various waypoints, and the pawn I'm currently possessing has the player controller, which will map my inputs onto actions in the game world, such as movement. So when we swap clones, all that really happens is it's swapping the controller. So I've swapped now, this pawn has the player controller, and this pawn has the dumb AI controller that this one used to have. And the game also does a few other minor things, like it will reattach a camera and play the effect, but we don't really care about those right now. Now the other thing to talk about is when you do a standard breakout like this, the fact that we're just swapping which controller is associated with which pawn means there's no movement associated with doing a swap. Which means this pawn out here is always this pawn, even when I swap into him, nothing moved, and more importantly, nothing hit the trigger in the middle, which would have hit the purple barrier and removed the checkpoint. And we can see this, I can run off wherever. If I reset checkpoint, I'm still going to be inside because I never hit the trigger to remove my checkpoint. And this leads nicely into the next point of why do clones get disabled? Well, it's because you lost the checkpoint. So every level keeps a list of all the empty clones within it. And that's another thing that changes when you swap clones, it swaps what's in the list, obviously. And then when you get the level's checkpoint, it will enable swapping to all of the clones in its list. When you lose the level's checkpoint, it will disable swapping. And incidentally, every level except for 4, for some reason, every level has this invisible volume around it, which if you walk into the volume, it will give you the checkpoint. If you walk out, it will take it from you, which is how this actually works, without the extra push from the purple. So now when we're doing the glitch, all we're doing, we're going to step out to remove the checkpoint and disable this clone, but we're going to get in there in between those two steps and we're going to swap into this clone before he gets disabled. And now what we've ended up doing is we've lost the checkpoint. This clone is standing inside the puzzle, the one I'm currently possessing. This clone is barely standing outside of the puzzle. But now we don't have the checkpoint, I'm inside the level. If I leave the volume, it can't remove the checkpoint because I don't have it in the first place. And this clone was not in the level, so it can also step out, and we retain the ability to swap between them. And now I could go down there and get a different checkpoint, and that's not going to remove the checkpoint from this level, so it's also not going to run the code to disable either of these clones. And so you can swap to them from anywhere. Now the one last note we'll do is how you can mess this up. So the most obvious thing is if we come up to the edge, if I move right and swap same frame, what ends up happening is a standard breakout where this clone has moved outside of the level bounds, but this clone is still within it obviously, but we didn't lose the checkpoint. So you can see I can inch closer to the edge, whatever, I can still see him, the same way I can still see the other clone through the purple. However, when this clone tries walking through, it will remove the checkpoint and will disable him. And this incidentally is why I recommend doing the small jig, because you can end up outside of the level with the checkpoint for it. I can still see this guy, even though I'm beyond the trigger which disables clones. So by making sure to go inwards a bit and then out until you can't see, you've made sure, okay, I'm definitely outside the level now, I'm definitely back in the level with the checkpoint. Now the other way you can mess it up is a lot more obvious, you can just swap too late, which, nope, that was not too late. Whoops, I swapped too late, it disabled before you were able to swap. So if you If you find that the clone you swapped into disables the original clone when you walk out, that means you swapped too early. If you find you don't get a swap, that means you swapped too late. If neither happens, you're in the middle, you got the glitch, perfect.